And it's interesting too, because this is one of the laws of nature, this duality, daytime, nighttime. Summer is the opposite to winter, spring is the opposite to autumn, quite different processes. But this duality of major and minor truth, one of the places we can see it is in ancient Greece. So, and that was to do with the Sophists and the Platonists. Because, the Sophists, that's where the word sophistry comes from, and we know that means something unnecessarily complicated and difficult to understand. And what goes with the sense of that is it's deliberately done, so it is difficult to understand, which the Sophists actually consciously did and created. So perhaps we could have a look at that and just unpack this a bit more about this trace to do with major and minor truth through history.
Yeah. Just to say, Darren, that it's minor truth is easy to see because it's all the things that are popular or appear, and then they move on. Then the truth of that thing passes. You could put subjective truth in there, opinions.
Yes. Yeah.
So there's an abundance of those. Everybody's got an opinion about everything. But deep down, we're still searching for truth. Everybody wants to know what the truth of the situation is. And we do know some truths. Some truths go on and on. And one of them that turns up in all the religions, for example, is the law of polarities. Just to give an example of a major truth. So the law of duality, the law of polarities, the law of two, day and night, up and down, left and right, cold and hot, and all those things. Sometimes it's like we can't see the forest for the trees. This is such an obvious truth that people kind of go, yeah, yin yang, sing the symbol, been there, got the t-shirt. But again, what it says, the implication of it is not thoroughly investigated. So be great to see some slides so we can open it up more.
So this idea of major and minor truth, it's not a new idea. There's a whole trace through human history to do with this. And a good example are the Sophists from ancient Greece, about 500 BC. They were wandering professional teachers. They didn't have schools like we know of them. And what they taught was that truth was relative. There were no absolutes, and it differed between cultures and people and times. And therefore, the value of any truth or understanding was its practical implications. Really, the personal thing, how it was useful to you and your career or whatever, your political ambitions or whatever you're setting out to do. And really, from that standpoint, their idea was that because you experience the world through your five senses, experience was totally subjective and different for every individual. So these teachers then formulated ideas about how the universe worked and how nature worked, but they all had a different idea. So all these different teachers were teaching different ideas. It became very confusing and a bit of a mess, really, because it was this minor truth idea. It was very subjective and very individual, and nothing sort of eternal or major or reliable about it.
Which, just to say, by the way, is not wrong in itself. Like,
No.
A person does have a subjective truth. We're all living a particular perspective, and we feel what we feel, and we can even think what you like. But the major truth question comes in is, doesn't matter what you think, the sun is going to rise tomorrow. Doesn't matter what you think. You need your heart beating, and
That's right.
It's funny when a person has all these theories, but when they go to or beliefs, but when they go to the doctor, they want to make sure that their heart's at a certain rhythm, that the pulse, all these checkups that we have, we're kind of running back to major truth as quickly as we can, just to make sure everything's all right. Yeah. If that major truth system is not all right, we're in trouble.
The Sophists were part of the Hellenic Greek period, which is ancient Greece. So they didn't follow with the idea that there was a divine truth and a major cause behind things. They took this minor truth thing and made it into a major philosophy. Another good example, just on what you were touching upon there, and it sounds ridiculous till you really think about it, that you can have whatever view and subjective personal truth you like, but you try flapping your arms and flying. Now you can do it with a hang glider and you can do it in an aeroplane, but human arms won't make you fly. So, and we have this in history as well, where people think they could fly and jump off a tower, and then they discover major truth very, very quickly. So then counterbalance, this law of two, this polarity, like a pendulum swinging. In response to that, in the time of Plato, their whole endeavor was looking back into the major truth of things. And what he taught was that behind the surface forms of the world, there was a core idea or form, or the term he used was essence to encapsulate all of that. That all of that, behind all of that, is a major truth that all of that comes out of. So one might think that's obvious, but you had two completely different schools of thought. And the interesting thing in history, they almost weave like a double helix, where one becomes dominant, then the other takes over. And, really into our modern time, it's the minor truth that seems to have a much greater impact and influence on the world than major truth, which is, part of why we think this is so important. And it's a really good place to start, is going back to look at those major truths.
Yeah, and of course the Greeks pulled a lot of those major truths out of ancient Egypt, right?
Absolutely.
Which was already in its decline. But one of the reasons ancient Egypt keeps popping up is they were obviously a civilization that, at least at one time, further back you go, they tried to base as much as they could on major truths. So you think of things like Pythagoras studying 21 years in Egypt, or 22 years, and he would have been in there studying major truths, which still appeared in his esoteric school, in his teaching, but how that's declinted now to children studying how to work out the sides and the lengths of a triangle, and the Pythagorean. It's like it doesn't, somehow the idea of a Pythagorean triangle and its the formulas around it we know it's moved away from some major truth. It wouldn't have been what he learned in ancient Egypt. I was thinking also the example of the Hippocratic Oath, because Socrates, he studied in Amenhotep's temple. A lot of other Greek people like Galen also studied in that particular temple, and he came out with the law of four, which he converted into the four humors, the medicine of the four humors, which was based on the law of four, which was based on the law of four, and that went on until 19th century. But that's already been kind of superseded. And whether true or not, there might have been some base in truth. What's interesting is doctors until today still have their oath, the Hippocratic Oath of do no harm. And it's funny, some truths fall away and other truths continue because everybody can agree to that truth.
Yes.
Which is not a kind of scientific truth, but a sentiment truth, a service truth, a human quality truth. So, as you say, things come and things go. We tend to rush back to major truths at time of importance. And when we're kind of in times of luxury, people start to spread out into minor truths and details.
Yes, and I think, this is one of the sort of searches of our times, really. I think that pendulum swinging back, that, people are looking for and are interested in major truth once again to make sense of everything.
Yeah.
So a good example of this Platonic view of major truth is that, think of how many different types of tables there are in the world: glass tables, metal, wood, 3 legs, 4 legs, an infinite variety. And, right now some people in the world somewhere are making tables and designing a new look, all the different materials. But what Plato was saying is that that's like an example of minor truth. They're all true. The tables exist, they're real. but it really comes out of the essence, or what's sometimes referred to as the archetype of tables, because even if it has 3 legs instead of 4, they have to be geometrically balanced, otherwise the table's not going to stand up. It's based in the function of something. So a table has a function. It's not a hat, it's not a car that you drive, it's not something you eat with. It has a particular kind of, and so there are parameters where if it extends too far, it's actually not a table anymore. It's something else. And this is very important. It's at the level of minor truth where things can be distorted and mixed and to become something else altogether, which comes back to the mental health ideas that it's a common pattern in the world today where humans are bombarded with so much shifting minor truth. It's hard to anchor yourself in something real and reliable and permanent.
Yeah.
So you can take that example, apply it to anything you like. There's the essence or the core major truth of something, and then there's the outplay of all the different variations and permutations of that.